Hey there guys, Alex from Mental Health Thinking here, and I've got another video today. This one's about diaphragmatic breathing. So I'm a provisional psychologist, and everything I say in all of these videos are things that I tell clients. So ever since I started practicing, I've been on the hunt for the best de-arousal technique that I could find. This is to help with people who worry a lot, who find themselves anxious, who get angry a lot, or even just really overwhelmed with stress. When you're in a stress mode like that, your body actually goes into a mortal stress mode to either fight, flight, run away, or freeze. And this is something that some animals do because they figure they can't run, they can't fight, but a lot of predators will actually see through movement. On a physiological level, our peripheral nervous system has two main sections where it has parasympathetic mode and sympathetic mode. And those work in duality. We always have some extent of either one. Now, the parasympathetic mode is all of the relaxation features that we expect. The sympathetic mode is that stress response. The stress response is really, really important when you need to fight or get out of there. But when you're just in a situation where you're getting overwhelmed or you're worrying about things, especially over worrying and getting into that cyclic kind of thinking, isn't very useful in that situation. And it actually causes quite a bit of harm. So when we're in that sympathetic mode, what happens is our heart rate goes up, our respiratory rate goes up, and we breathe short and shallow. Our blood pressure goes up. Our blood actually gets stickier and thicker. And the reason for that is if we got cut when we were trying to get out of there or trying to fight, then we don't want to bleed out. So it's thicker, stickier, and it'll actually clot more easily. That's great for that situation, especially when it's just in short bursts. But inside your body, that increases the risk of clots as well. So a pulmonary embolism in your lungs, a heart attack in your heart, a stroke in your brain, and you can have embolisms all over the place. The inside of our arteries also build up plaque when we have high blood pressure over a long period of time and for most of our time. Now, that's actually a protective mechanism as it helps the arteries deal with the high blood pressure, but it also narrows the arteries and it causes high risk of clots and further risk of cardiac problems. With this stress management, the best predictor that found in research of good cardiac health over time is the ability to efficiently switch between the sympathetic and parasympathetic mode. So the ability to efficiently go from being really stressed back down and actually back in the other direction. But the idea is that you get time between bursts of arousal to recover so that your body is in that natural state. And that's what we aim for with techniques like diaphragmatic breathing. So before diaphragmatic breathing, I came across slow, deep breathing. And that is a good technique to reduce your arousal. Because if you've ever heard the phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together, it means that things that happen at the same time in the body and in the mind actually have a dual causal relationship, because the neurons that fired at the same time in the past got wired together and therefore fire together. So if we're happy, we smile, but if we smile, we actually get happy because our brain interprets our smiling as we must be happy. They've actually done studies with people who've kind of overdone it with Botox and found that they have lower subjective reports of intensity of emotion. Now, the theory there is that because their face has less expressionism than it would normally have, they actually have less internal emotional expression because of that. Now, it also works with your stress response. So when we're in that stress zone, we start breathing like this. Now, it's fast and it's sharp. So if we slow that down and do nice deep breaths, then we can actually decrease our arousal by telling our brain that we're in that relaxed mode. We do that via our top-down control. Now, with diaphragmatic breathing, in addition to taking advantage of that dual causal relationship between what we do when we're calm and feeling calm, it also contacts what's called the vagal nerve. Now, the vagal nerve is what's responsible for actually switching us back from sympathetic mode to parasympathetic mode. So the way diaphragmatic breathing works The diaphragm is the big muscle that sits at the base of the lungs here. When you contract the diaphragm, it expands up into the rib cage, pushing the lungs up and expelling the air. So that's the effortful part. It's important first to note that that's where the effort is on the out breath, because when we're breathing with the ancillary muscles around our chest, shoulders and upper back, the contraction of those muscles actually occurs on the in-breath. So if we go, we're expending energy when we're breathing in. Now, when we actually breathe out, that's when we relax. It's the opposite with diaphragmatic breathing. This can help you recognize whether you're doing it right. So when you breathe with your diaphragm, you breathe out first. And then when I breathed back in, I just simply allowed my stomach to expand, and then my lungs expanded because it had that vacuum created. When you're learning how to do diaphragmatic breathing, what I'd suggest is first lying down. So you can do it on a bed or a couch, somewhere where you're comfortable and you can lie nice and flat. So you're going to start diaphragmatic breathing by sticking something light like a book or a tissue box on top of your stomach, and you can observe that that's actually moving in first as you breathe out, and then it's going to move out as you breathe back in. You can get the feel for it that way, and then you can move on to bracing yourself. So standing 2 feet, legs spread wide apart, and you're also bracing yourself on a bench or something like that. The reason for this is because when you first start diaphragmatic breathing, due to the extra oxygenation that you get from those deeper breaths by using more of your lung capacity, you can actually feel a bit dizzy due to hyperoxygenation. Over time, you'll get used to it and you'll be able to do it standing all the time. So another thing that happens when we're stressed and when we're in that mode with our sympathetic nervous system is it diverts blood, oxygen and resources away from our organs and actually to the bigger muscles in our arms and legs. The reason for that, of course, is to actually be able to fight or run away. But because it's taking those resources away from the organs, it means over time you won't be digesting food at the same rate. You can have problems with your digestion if you're in a high stress mode for a long time. Now, with your brain, it starts using your autopilot, these cheaper in terms of the amount of resources required parts of the brain that will run things that you already know and you've already practiced. Your top-down control, your prefrontal cortex, actually takes a lot of resources, a lot of energy compared to that back of your brain. And the important factor there is when you're in the fight-flight mode and you're getting less resources sent to your brain, you don't actually use that to the same extent. And your ability to learn things and to control yourself from the top down. Let's say when you're angry, you have an impulse to do something you might regret later. You could use your top-down control usually to stop yourself from doing that. But that's going to be more difficult if you're in that high stress mode. So the key to that is diaphragmatic breathing, when not practiced, when not the normal way for you to breathe, is going to be really hard for you to do properly and learn on the spot when you're stressed out. You need to be learning it and practicing it when you're calm and when you're able to. So when we're born, we breathe with our diaphragm. If we get knocked out, the autonomic nervous system kicks in, we breathe with our diaphragm. It's a natural way for us to breathe when we're not in a high stress mode. We can get back to that being the normal way of breathing unless we're in that high stress mode. The way to do that is to practice. I'd usually suggest 5 breaths, 5 diaphragmatic breaths at 5 different sections throughout the day, and move up to 6 times a day. Once you get to about 10 times a day, it goes back to your normal way of breathing. And you'll find that your efficiency to switch from that high level of arousal to low arousal is much better, and your ability to think, oh, okay, I'm stressed now, I'm going to use diaphragmatic breathing, is much higher because you've been practicing it. Okay, so that's my talk on diaphragmatic breathing. I hope you found it useful. I hope you do practice it. And this is for everybody that it can be useful because, as I said, it's our normal way of breathing. And the efficiency with which we can switch from high arousal to low arousal is very important for our cardiac health over time. If you want to see more, and I'll be posting them every week, press subscribe. Thanks.